All the water on our planet travels through what we call the hydrologic cycle, moving between different reservoirs, oceans, glaciers, the atmosphere, etc. But as humans, we can only ingest fresh water. Most fresh water is locked in glaciers, which we can't reasonably use. Our drinking water either comes from the bodies of fresh water above ground, like rivers or ponds, or from below ground, groundwater. Groundwater reservoirs aren't usually rivers or lakes sitting in caves, although they can be. Instead, when we think of groundwater, we think of water lying in smaller open spaces in sediment and rock under the surface, in the pores between grains or in cracks. Different rocks are able to contain more or less water depending on their porosity, the proportion of rock that's open space. How does water get into the pores? Some of it comes with the sediment when it gets buried and then gets trapped when it lithifies into rock. Some can even come out of intruding magma, but most of it comes from when rain or snow lands on the surface and percolates through the soil. This downward motion is called infiltration. The speed with which water moves through rock, either downward or horizontally, depends on its permeability, the extent to which the pores in the rock connect to each other, allowing liquid to flow through. Depending on the permeability of its material, rocks like sandstone or siltstone can be aquifers, which let water through easily, or aquitards like clay, which slow the flow of water. These in turn determine the saturated and unsaturated zones of the subsurface and the border between them, called the water table. These are essential aspects to understand how to capture groundwater through wells. But doesn't the flow of groundwater depend on other things besides permeability? What about the amount of rock that we're moving through, and the groundwater within higher parts of the aquifer that put pressure on the location that we're measuring? Yes, all of these contribute to the flow of groundwater, and they all come together in Darcy's law, which calculates the speed of the flow. A simple version of the law can be written as Q equals K times A times I, where Q is the discharge of water passing through a given vertical location, A is the area of this plane, K is the hydraulic conductivity, the ease of flow, mostly dependent on permeability, and I is the hydraulic gradient, the instantaneous slope of the water table. All of these terms and equations describe the process that can seem so simple to us: the movement of drinkable water. But with the rise of climate change, our access to water is changing. Increased heat is resulting in the drying of rivers. Changing rain patterns means water tables are lowering. This could mean widespread migration and new, expensive fixes. But despite the complicated study of hydrology, sometimes the most effective fixes are the simple ones. Enter the Johad, a traditional Indian method of conserving water during dry spells. A Johad is essentially a place to store water from precipitation. It is typically surrounded by a less permeable material like clay to keep the water store from becoming runoff. Through the bottom of the Johad, the water percolates into the soil, saturating the subsurface, raising the water table, and replenishing wells. Johads were suppressed in India during colonization, but have since regained recognition. They are cheap, effective, and simple. Hydrology can be studied in detail, and often should, to fully understand the complex systems of our planet. But it's important to remember that sometimes the simplest, straightforward solutions are the best ones.